Hi, my name's Robbie Barker. I'm a strength and conditioning coach here at Luda Sports Performance. During a collision, your head is rapidly moved around. This rapid head movement causes the brain to collide with the skull, resulting in a brain injury, concussion. Fortunately for us, we do have an inbuilt protective system, the neck muscles. The job of our neck muscles is to stabilize the head and therefore reduce the amount of movement the head experiences. So, how do we train those muscles to get stronger and respond faster when we get hit? Enter the neck series. As with any other training, we use testing to get a baseline on our athletes. We are fortunate enough to have the valve equipment, which can give us some great data on our athletes' neck strength. Once we have our baseline results, we can start phase 1 of the neck series. Firstly, we start by training the muscles to resist movement, which we refer to as isometric training. When it comes to neck training, we start with isometrics for a few reasons. The first reason comes down to building an athlete's confidence. In my experience, many people get quite nervous around the neck, and by starting with a low complexity, static contraction, the athlete feels more in control because there is no movement involved. Secondly, an isometric contraction is in essence what we want to produce in a real-world sporting collision, as isometric tension in the neck will help to stabilize the head and thus reduce the amount of brain movement inside the skull. Now, let's take a look at the specific exercises we use in the first phase of our neck series. Okay, so now we've got Ryan looking good in the head harness. You don't have to have a head harness, you can get them for about $60 on Amazon. But if you don't have one, you can always just grab a resistance band from Kmart. They're nice and cheap, so that is always an option. So the first exercise in our isometric phase of our neck series is going to be our neck flexion. So Ryan's clipped into the back of his harness here. The band is trying to pull him back toward the rack. He's going to take a couple of steps towards me. And the cues we're going to look for is a nice full body brace position, eyes pointing straight ahead, and Ryan is trying to resist that force pulling him back to the rack. So the muscles in the front of Ryan's neck, his flexors, are doing the work here. So next we'll move on to lateral flexion. Okay, so now Ryan's clipped in to the side of his head. He's going to take a couple of steps towards me. The band is now trying to pull Ryan laterally, so the muscles in the right of Ryan's neck are resisting that lateral force. The cues remain the same, nice full body brace position, eyes pointing straight ahead, and he's holding that for however long the program dictates. Okay. We're going to move on to extension. Okay, so now we're clipped into the front of the harness here. So now Ryan's going to take a couple of steps back. The band is now trying to pull Ryan forward toward the rack, but his extensors in his neck are doing the job to keep him in that neutral position. So, holding that brace position, eyes pointing straight ahead, not allowing that band to pull you forward. Finally, we move on to rotation. So we can keep the band attached to that front part, that front clip, and as now the band is going to try to pull Ryan in a rotational direction. So, holding that position, Ryan's cues remain the same. Eyes point straight ahead, full body brace position, and resisting that rotational force. So those are all the exercises in the isometric phase of our neck series. Next, we'll be showing you the eccentric phase of our neck series.